May all mothers know that they are loved, and may all sisters know that they are strong, and may all daughters know that they are worthy, that the circle of women may live on, that the circle of women may live on. May all mothers know that they are loved, and may all sisters know that they are strong, and may all daughters know that they are worthy, that the fire of the goddess may burn on, that the fire of the goddess may burn on. Way-ya, way-ya, way-ya. May all brothers know that they are loved, and may all sisters know that they are strong, and may all daughters know that they are beautiful, that the circle of women may live on, that the circle of women may live on. May all mothers know that they are loved, and may all sisters know that they are strong, and may all daughters know that they are beautiful, that the fire of the goddess may burn on, that the fire of the goddess may burn on.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Aurora. And welcome everyone to Sacred Conversations for Women with Aurora Pagonis. If you'd like to join this sacred conversation or one in the future, please send an email to sacredconversations at wetheworld and at wetheworld.org. I'll say it again, sacred conversations at wetheworld.org. Sacred conversations at wetheworld.org. And Angel will send you a Zoom link for the future conversations. This series of Sacred Conversations is featured by We the World's Campaign for Women, and you can learn more about We the World and all of our campaigns by going to we.net. Now let's bring in Aurora, who is in Australia. Aurora Pagonis is the founder of She Speaks, which is dedicated to the awakening and embodiment of the feminine intelligent principle in leadership. Welcome to the broadcast, Aurora Pagonis. And I will turn it over to you, and in a few minutes I'll take my leave also. Thank you all, and see you soon.
Thank you so much, Rick, and thank you to We the World and beautiful Karen Palmer, who has just entered the screen as well, who is running the We campaign. My name is Aurora Pagonis, as Rick has already shared for those who may not know me, but I think I know most people on the screen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Marie, wherever you are in the world. I don't think we've met before. Today is International Women's Day. And just before we continue and start into a deeper conversation that has already been stirred earlier for the half hour that we came together with Karen and Rick and the beautiful women, some who are here with us now. I just want to start this conversation from a place of honouring. A place of honouring all women, the women that have come before us, the women who will be coming in the future, our children and our children's children, and the boys, of course. The women who are extended in our company across the globe, and every single woman who is showing up here in this conversation today. So we start this conversation from a place of deep appreciation and gratitude. And just welcoming that into our hearts as we just allow, I know there's a couple more who will be joining us shortly. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's take a beautiful, deep, unified breath in together through the nose. And a long breath out. And another beautiful, enlivening breath in together through the nose. And a breath out. Acknowledging whatever it's taken for you to be here in this moment. And I just want to also speak into the readiness that is already in this room, in this conversation. Can you feel it? This sense of readiness, this sense of being groomed and ready and prepared now in this potent moment in history, almost for your grandest act, your grandest expression, acknowledging everything that each of you have become, the places that have been challenging and resistant and uncomfortable, and the growth that comes through that when we say yes. So acknowledging the deep-hearted yes as we move into a sacred conversation today, a sacred conversation that is here to really support us in a deeper activation and ignition of our gifts, which is so needed and necessary right now, and specifically our gifts in leadership. And as I'm looking at every single woman on this screen, I know each of you have stepped forward in your leadership in a powerful, potent way, in very different ways. And yet the qualities and the essence and what is supporting each of you forward is same. So we're going to start to pull and start to look at all those little aspects that are coming through. And more importantly, in this sense of newness, who's feeling a sense of newness coming into 2021 as we move through the solstice and January and February? Of course, change continues to happen, but there's something that's evolving within us. So we're going to cultivate this sense of newness as well. Just a couple of moments on myself. I've grown up in the world of business. I worked in corporate business for many, many years. So conscious business is a huge passion of mine, recognizing that business can be the most powerful source to really support the transformation that all of us are visioning and seeing when focused for good. And also I was on a very powerful path, a consciousness path. So these two tracks kind of ran separately for a very long time. And I know most of you will appreciate your own two tracks of something that you were called forth into, that seem to be opposing, masculine, feminine, money and love, business, spirituality. However we want to look at them, two sides of the same coin. And yet as these two seemingly opposing opposites, I'm not doing funny ears here, but these are my little, the little things that happen on the end of the words. As these two seemingly opposing opposites started to merge in my life, I recognized that a wholeness was wooing me forward. And this wholeness began by the wooing of the divine feminine. And I really feel her in this space, in the center of our conversation, even before we've begun, ready for her next expression. And so I want to share my appreciation for the new co-creation that's occurring with with Karen at the lead of the We campaign, and with Rick, who's been really nurturing this space for many, many years. And also the new conversation that needs to now happen to find out in all of these incredible projects that we're all working in different aspects of the same, how we can bring them together in a more powerful way, and what it is that we are to do, what is ours to do together as well. Yeah. Sacred Conversations was birthed officially with this title about a year ago with my beautiful friend, sister and co-creator Janet Grace. Thank you for being with us today, sweetheart, who is on this screen. And it was a response really as a ministry originally to encourage the ancient technology of conversation and sitting in circle but allowing it to be expressed in a new and contemporary way. Of course, this conversation is about you today. So any place where you are holding in your contribution can kind of just fall away so that you can show up in your own expression, your own evolution, and your own beingness. And it's about us. It's about what it is that we want to create together. So as we're arriving, and because we're a beautiful, intimate group, I would just love to hear each of your voices before we drop into a meditation. I'm just going to share how we're going to play today. We're going to drop into a little mindfulness so we can meet in a deeper place. We're going to have a little conversation around our topic today, and there's different topics for each sacred conversation. And today we're going to be speaking again about activating our feminine gifts in leadership. We're then going to have an opportunity to each reflect on a few questions, taking some quiet time. So I'm hoping you all have pen and paper with you. We'll have an opportunity to journal, and we will be going to breakout rooms so we can meet one another or meet another sister in the group and go a little deeper. We'll then come back into the overall group and start to pull out some of those threads and see what wants to emerge, and then we'll move towards a close. The call will take about 90 minutes. I do ask for confidentiality. If everyone can just raise their hands. I know that this is common practice, but I always still love to have the integrity in the space. And we are entering sacred space, so just really honouring one another's sameness and differences. So that's all I need to do to start off with. Let's just say hello. If you'd just like to share your name, where you are in the world, what it is in this moment that you feel that you're really holding in your leadership as well. You know, what are you holding in your leadership? And just one or two sentences so we can get into the body. But I'd just love to meet each of you. I'll just pop in here. So your name, where you're tuning into from the world, and what it is that you're holding in your leadership right now. I know that you have multiple projects, so it could be an essence of something that's emerging, or it could actually be a project that that's really here and alive for you in your leadership. I'm just going to let you just share now in popcorn style.
I'll pop in first. Hi, Aurora. Hi, everyone. It's so beautiful to be in this sacred space with all of you. I'm Janet Grace. I'm coming to you from Big Bear Lake, California. We're just about to get another winter storm. And where I am expanding in my leadership right now, I have been a spiritual life coach and speaker, author, teacher, trainer for over 20 years. And I'm stepping into I'm a founder of a new nonprofit organization. So I'm stepping into a whole nother trajectory of my soul's calling. And it's taking another dimension of my feminine leadership to a whole new level. So I'm grateful to be here. Thank you, Aurora.
Thank you, sweetheart.
This is Sandy Hart. I'd love to go next. And congratulations to you, Janet, on your new endeavor. And I love Big Bear. I'm the founder of a women's interfaith organization called SARA, Spiritual and Religious Alliance for Hope. And we're in our 18th year. And what the pandemic has allowed us to do is really open our borders in a way that we've never done before. And we've gone online with workshops and trainings and so on. But I would have to say there's two ways we're showing up in leadership. So Aurora, thank you for that really great topic, because I think it's such an important way to really frame where our power is. And we have the power to lead, but that doesn't always mean to be up front. Servant leadership is really leading from behind. I happen to be a very upfront kind of person. So I might be more of that, but at the same time, I think that it's a sacred dance of knowing when to listen, knowing when to let in the young voices, when to stop talking, and be a better listener than I am talker, and also not here comes that word again that I used on our last call, was audacity, not having the audacity to think that I actually know where we're going, but to pay attention and listen carefully to that. And the two projects that we're working on at SARA and our flagship is one, and I'm so glad you did the goddess song to start us off with. That was such a great spirit to launch us with, is our goddess files. We are crowdsourcing goddesses. Everybody can go to the goddess files, identify your goddess. And we're creating a comic book series on the goddesses. So Anne, who showed up with Freya, who's our Nordic goddess, and she is fierce and she is powerful and she's strong and she's a lover of humanity and nature. She's going to show up in our comic strip in that way, where my Latvian Mara is going to show up in justice, because Mara's hands are always like this. She's going to show up in justice and protecting nature and protecting all of humanity to be in balance. And then it goes into this comic book series. So young girls and boys who like to read comics will see a new Shiro. And the other is the General Congress of Women, where we are framing new, whether you've got an existing organization, you're starting something new, or you really don't know how to get started, and making sure that what we call the essential elements of care and caregiving, sacred economy, recognizing our interrelated nature, and circle principles are present. And then we use the framework of the UN Beijing 12 critical areas of concern, which honoring International Women's Day is important to know about, because it comes out of the Fourth World Conference of Beijing that Hillary Clinton took the stage at the podium and said, women's, oh gosh, now it just flew out of my head. I know you all say it, somebody pop in. Women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights. Sorry about that. So that's what I'm going to say about that, but it is really really an honor to be in circle with you. And I'll stay as long as I possibly can. I'm gonna, and stretching our comfort zones. That's another thing that I wanted to say. Stretch those comfort zones. I told you I was a talker.
Thank you, Sandy. I know Sandy has already shared that she can't stay for the whole call, so I'm glad that you shared more about what you're up to. And if I could just invite the women just to very briefly, because we've got lots to dive into shortly, just your name, where you are, and just one or two sentences of what you're up against in your leadership. Thank you so much, dear Sandy.
Hi, I'm going to pop in. My name is Dr. Marty K. Casey. I live in St. Louis, Missouri. And at this particular time, I am using my feminine power I'm preparing to choose my exploratory committee to run for a Missouri Senate seat. And I also spend my time with my company, Ungun Institute, helping others to disarm trauma. Hurt people, healed people, heal people. I am also only going to be able to be here with you for a short time, but I want to thank you in advance for the wonderful work that you are sharing with us all.
Thank you, Dr. Casey. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Marty and Sandy and our friends Janet and all the new people here. My name is Heidi Little. I've been the co-founder and director of International Children's Month for 9 years. We run a free thematic activity platform based in social emotional learning and empowerment for all children and youth across the planet. And I've recently amped up the volume on the Center for Advancement in Social Emotional Learning, which I've also founded, and we've begun certifications for 2021. Our mission is international educators implementing SEL while raising the bar for love, care, and respect for ourselves and all of our students. So, heart-based education, Gandhi said, we have spent decades training the mind, centuries training the body, and yet we have allowed the heart to atrophy. So this is the answer to his call for educators to train. So we're training the trainers, and it's fabulous. Yay. Thank you. Nice to meet everybody.
Thank you, Heidi. Welcome, darling.
Hi, kind of a newcomer to this. My name is Marie Malarchuk. I'm a musician. I'm a music teacher. I've been in 3 different women's bands. I'm very much interested in working with women musically, very interested in feminism, and I love just listening to what you're all involved in. I help in a food pantry. I teach disabled children, and I just want to say that I'll be in and out of the meeting because I'm going to multitask with another music meeting that I'm involved in, but I'm sure you'll be giving me food for my music tonight. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Hi, I am Sharon Rhea, and I'm here in beautiful sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. I am the founder of a global movement, No Judgment, Just Love, as well as a life and family coach with the Whole Family Coaching. And Aurora, thank you so much for bringing us all together with the leadership context. I am highlighting my feminine leadership by living the message of no judgment, just love. It is a challenge to live in this world in this current time and not judge people and then treat them unkindly or with disregard. And so my leadership comes from my undaunted ability to just keep trying, because I do judge every day, all the time, but take that pause and move past that to actually treat people with, as Heidi said, love, care, and respect. So thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
I just want to mention I'm from New York City. I live in Queens in New York City. A lot going on in this place.
Thank you, Marie. Who else wants to jump out?
I will. Hi, Aurora and all you beautiful ladies. My name is Janice Maple. I'm joining you from Sydney in Australia. First of all, I just want to thank Aurora for inviting me here today. I had the pleasure of listening to you all in the Facebook Live beforehand. I wrote a couple of notes because the information coming to me was fantastic. And I think, Dr. Marty, you said that you're a humanitician and not a politician. And that really resonated with me because I feel that we're all role models. We're all out there doing our very best. And it actually is for the benefit of all people, not because we've got, our own personal agenda that we're out there, spruiking, but we're doing it for the benefit of all people. I'm a founder of a program in my community called Kindred Women Together. It's been operating for a couple of years. It was a small little community in northern New South Wales, a state in Australia. I've just recently moved to the biggest city in Australia, Sydney, because I want to expand that program into an area that I think really needs it. It's about connecting women within your community so that they can basically feel empowered in that they have these connections with other women and get back to the basics as to what Aurora's saying, which is, honouring feminine friendships and the support and the strength that comes through those. There's a lot of disconnection in the cities, and that's I guess, this purpose that we all have, it's greater than us, and so for me, I know that I'm just following the guidance that I get every day, which is keep going, and the feedback I get back from all the women that benefit keep me going. But yeah, thanks again, Aurora, for inviting me here. I've already got so much out of the first session, so I'm looking forward to the rest of it.
Thank you so much for being with us, Janice, and for all that you're doing.
Kia ora. Yes, kia ora, everyone, as we say in New Zealand, which means be well, be whole. And heartfelt gratitude to you, Aurora, for hosting the sacred conversation here, and also to We Women for making this possible on a very auspicious day, International Women's Day, which has now been going for decades. So I come from New Zealand, and in New Zealand right now, we're giving it a go. We had an election at the end of last year, and I was instrumental to some extent in some of those results. I convened the Green Party, the campaign committee, and we have joined Labour, which is run by our very charismatic, young, inspirational leader, Jacinda Ardern. We have a cooperation agreement to work with them, and then there are 3 other parties in Parliament. Right now, out of those 5 political parties, 4 of them are led by women. And the 5th party, its deputy is a woman. 2 of those leaders are Indigenous women. They are Māori women, and they are co-leaders, because that's the model we're also wanting to show and wanting to demonstrate to the world. So as you can gather, I'm keenly interested in politics, but politics of the best kind, politics that goes beyond duality, either or, harsh debate, politics that is actually committed to what's right and good for the planet. And in that context, that's where I see women playing a huge part. Heart-led leadership, kindness and strength, empathy, and bringing that heart intelligence to the problems and the issues that are right in front of us at this point in time. And the other impassioned statement I want to make is that this is our time. The window is still open for us to shape the future, but we know it won't be open for much longer, maybe through to the end of this decade. So that's why I'm so passionately happy to be part of this panel and to hear about you, Marty, wanting to stand for the Missouri Senate, and also the amazing work that's happening with many of your foundations and the huge differences each of you are making in the lives of women and families and the lives of allies as well. So huge gratitude for being here. But yeah, I'm from New Zealand. Keep watching us. We could be your future.
Thank you, Pleasance.
I'm sensing a strong partnership developing between Pleasance and Dr. Marty Casey here for the next election. So I'm excited to watch that happening. I'm Elizabeth Williams. I'm the founder of a social enterprise called Awe Partners, and we are a social impact advisory firm. I'm in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States, and our focus has shifted dramatically to be only focused on the repowerment of women. So through a program I've created called the 7 Pillars of Women's Repowerment, we are bringing good things to the world. But in alignment with that, I have felt a very strong sense and calling to the divine feminine rising. And so where I am at a leadership place is, how do I take those 2 pathways of women's repowerment and the divine feminine rising and merge them? And that's what I think the future is going to be founded on. So I'm excited about that. And I am honored to be here with all of you. And thank you so much for Aurora and Karen creating this for us.
Thank you, beautiful Elizabeth. And Angel, did you want to share your voice?
Sure, I'll jump in really quick. So I am Angel Fullerton. I am the Chief Operating Officer over at We the World. I do a lot of the weaving of all of our partners and individuals that come in to build these magnificent projects and get these events put together. That's it in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aurora.
Thank you for being with us. What an incredible, powerful group of women. I just want to briefly say, my focus is very much about working with women across the globe, whether it's in masterminds or individually or groups, mainly change makers who are rising into expressing their projects and supporting them in their leadership journey. And so as we move into this next part, we're going to be invited just to close our eyes so we can just attune to a deeper place. Just closing down the eyes and just making sure everyone's mute. We're just going to drop into a little mindfulness now. Karen, did you want to say anything, my love? I didn't actually ask you specifically just before we start. Is there something else you would like to share?
Oh, no.
Something you're feeling or where you're at?
I'm in Solvang, California, and I work with women and allies and families, and I'm kind of modern day Mr. Rogers, Dr. Seuss, and Weird Al Yankovic of kindness and compassion. I'm known as Miss Kindness, and I use kindness as a superpower. So I teach people how to use their kindness and their compassion and their gratitude as superpowers.
So now let's close down the eyes. Thank you, Karen. Allowing yourself to drop even more deeply into your center now. Allowing the silence to support you to go there. As I invite us to take a beautiful, long, deep breath in through the nose. And a long, sighing breath out. Allowing your shoulders to drop and your belly to soften. Taking a moment just to feel what it feels like to be you in this moment. Quietly naming how you're feeling inside. And as you continue to turn inward and travel to your heart of hearts now, bringing into your awareness an ancient fire, seeing, sensing, feeling it now. This ancient fire of unconditional love, a fire that has been burning for eons of time. Taking a moment to come into relationship with this fire as it nurtures you with its warmth and its flame. And as you take your place around this fire, you start to notice each of the women on this call starting to gather around with you. Leaning into the warmth and activating the deepest sense of listening, the deepest sense of receiving. Acknowledging each of your sisters around this fire now. And noticing in the willingness to receive and to be here now, the unique gifts that you have been given, that you have been refining, are starting to become more activated, more alive. Starting to feel and sense more of yourself. And as you continue just to open and receive, knowing with eyes closed or open, same. You take another beautiful deep breath in through the nose. And a long deep breath out through the mouth. And just as you come to open eyes, just typing into the chat box just a feeling word, what it is that you're feeling in this moment as we come back into our conversation. Blessed, possibility, feeling alive, calm. Allow them to keep coming now. Grateful, relaxed and ready. Beautiful. Feeling warm, expansive, beautiful. Can you feel the energy already starting to drop? And it was interesting, one of the things that I have learnt to trust is what starts to open up in the emergent space. And I had a plan of how we were going to play together, but it's just about to shift because we're in an intimate group and we're going to stay together rather than going out to breakout rooms. And I'd like to start with the conversation here in this space, and you can just share in popcorn style, and we will make them succinct answers. I know that as feminine leaders, being able to drop into our succinct expression of communication is a beautiful, refined quality. But just so we can hear all the voices, and there's a few places that we're going to go together. So I'd love to understand what we feel or what we're defining leadership to be. My experience working with lots of women across the globe, there's still so many connotations around what leadership has been. The patriarchy style of leadership with power over as opposed to power within. That it's one person leading potentially. What is leadership for us? let's start to have a look at the strands of what's bubbling up here and just opening up the space. You know, the other word that a lot of women feel more comfortable with is influencing, being an influencer. What is it that's going to take for us to really claim our leadership now? We're just opening the space for a few shares.
I'm going to jump in because I apologize again. I'm going to have to go. But what I've come to find leadership to be is when you are willing to step up, even when you witness others stepping back. There's a sense of responsibility that I feel like we should have as leaders. And leaders not only hold the space, but leaders lead. That means I can show you what needs to be done, even if no one's willing to do it. That's what I believe a really good leader is.
It's amazing. I'm just feeling so much energy moving through my body because I'm sensing the times where you and where each of us have stepped into our courage to go there, because it's not always easy. You know, and particularly when we're leading from this place of heart intelligence, when we're coming, you know, there's a risk every single time I say yes. And every single time that you say yes. Beautifully spoken. Thank you, Dr. Marty. Who else would like to share?
I'm going to jump in and just build on what Dr. Marty said and what you're saying, Aurora, because the word that keeps coming to me is courage, because I think it takes tremendous courage. Whatever step we take, it takes tremendous courage. And we have to be willing to face our fears, to step outside our comfort zones, to stand out and apart oftentimes. And I think to take the next step when we don't see all of the other steps, and to know that's all I have to do right now, one step at a time, and that's enough to lead. So I just want to offer that.
Loving that, Elizabeth, or this, and you know, it's that sense of relearning as women in our leadership that we don't have to have the whole plan. You know, I grew up in the corporate environment, as I mentioned earlier, in a very male-dominated industry, and I had some incredible male leaders, and I also had some not so great female leaders and not so great male leaders, you know, so there was a mix already in that space. And yet the way of working then, you know, that you had to have the 10-year plan. We don't have that indulgence anymore. You know, that one step, feel that only that one step, and trusting when our hearts are saying this and our minds is saying this, and it's kind of like, I'm going with this. And nobody else is agreeing, you know, and you're trusting yourself. This is one of the biggest the biggest qualities I feel we have been cultivating as feminine leaders is trusting ourselves and trusting that deeper knowing to step out even in this. Thank you, Elizabeth.
I want to build on that too, what you've said there, because I feel this is such an important conversation we're having. You know, in my childhood, I have childhood wounds where I saw myself as inferior. I saw myself as, I was raised to believe that I was inferior. And it's a big part of why I work with children, because I really believe that when we work with the children and we teach equality and respect and dignity for all, we will see a different world. I've already seen it. I've been in the schools for 20 years now, and I have seen my own daughter. I started when she was 5 years old in kindergarten, and she is becoming a strong leader in her own right now. She's actually she has inspired me to continue to go further. But I think it's so important, like what Dr. Marty was just saying, and Elizabeth just said, and Aurora said, to build on this, because what we need to do is restructure the way that we see the world, because my belief, my limited belief in myself, my self-imposed limitations created mirrors of men in my life to mirror that back to me, and other women to mirror that back to me, that I was inferior. And so it's so important, I think, right now, that we continue this conversation and find a way that we bring this to the schools so that every child knows that they deserve to have a voice and that they are not inferior to anyone, that they are equal in deserving respect and dignity. And I think that that's something that I believe is going to be what's going to change our world.
Karen, thank you so much. There's so much richness in your comments there in terms of the relearning, the education, and I really want to speak into the belief structures that we all carry. You know, one of the things that I work with leaders, I was originally working with corporate leaders, and then I turned my attention to women, and now mainly women who are change makers, really creating a change for humanity, and in alignment with a lot of the things that we've been speaking to. But even the very successful CEOs of organisations are holding these same exact woundings. You know, so there's this unlearning that's needing to happen. And when we're coming from a be, do, have model, who we are being creates our reality, where we can start to really unpack what are the beliefs that are really driving our behaviours. Our results start to change. And more importantly, you know, where we and what we start to value starts to shift. And so, you know, you're really touching into a place that I know that feminine leaders who are continuing on their evolutionary path need to come up against those places, need to have the spaces and the places to be held through, sometimes for them just to be able to see it, you know, when we're in our blind spots. And the courage, again, that it takes to actually go through the discomfort. You know, often when I'm running retreats or you know, working with the coaching, it's kind of like, you know, someone saying, I'm feeling really uncomfortable about this. And I'm like, yes, great. Because it's that growing edge that we are all on. And I feel that as feminine leaders, collectively, we're going through another growing edge. So I'm curious to start to talk into that shortly. I just feel like there's probably another share on leadership that wants to be shared, and we'll move on to another question.
I would love to piggyback, and I'm just going to acknowledge everyone who has already spoken about, you know, the leadership that is so essential in this beautiful spiral. The turn of our spiral as humanity is stepping into a greater level and a higher level of consciousness, and you know, the heart being the voice of the courage within each one of us. And Aurora, you know, right before you spoke into the energy of trust, that's just truly a huge part of my my coaching in the feminine leadership's arena. And also, I just want to say that the believing, I love, Karen, that you're teaching that. I have a 37-year-old daughter who I have been teaching this, you know, from the moment she was, you know, in vitro. So my journey's been very, very much like yours. You know, the childhood, you know, we were seen and not heard was the generation that most of us were raised in. So speaking your knowing truth is, I know, to be a very, very powerful aspect of the divine feminine as we are rising and elevating our own selves first as powerful leaders and repowering. I love, Elizabeth, that you're using that as a term, the 7 pillars of repowerment, and really, truly, deeply, profoundly remembering that not only are we enough, we are more than enough. We are more than enough. And when we embody that, our truth is able to be spoken from such clarity and such courage and such commitment that everything is changed. Because as we know, energy doesn't lie, and energy has this ability to continue to transmute in such eloquent ways, even in all of the areas that we're all coming from all over the globe. We are positively affecting tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hearts in this moment. So I just want to once again say how grateful I am to be in this sacred conversation.
Thank you, Grace. And, you know, it's interesting. I often speak about the place of being in good company and knowing that sitting with each of you here now and those who we're actually still streaming live on Facebook. So if we can at any point actually close that down if we're wanting to, you know, if there's more personal sharing that wants to occur, and I might focus that. But those who are watching this live or may watch the recording, I'm hoping are also and trusting are also being inspired and really inviting you to sort of take some of the questions into your own contemplations, you know, as we are doing here. And this place of being in good company creates this sense of safety. And one of the reasons why Sacred Conversations has been birthed, and recognising the more consistently we meet, the more resonance we build and the more synergy we build together. And when we build synergy, that's when the intelligence becomes available in the centre. And so I just want to recognise the importance of good company. And Grace and Karen, you started leaning into this in your share as well. You know, each of us as feminine leaders have had to move through some core feminine wounds. And these core feminine wounds are actually universal. And so in the naming of them, not to actually be stuck there or to really need to go there, I want to name some of those pop concepts. What are some of these common ones? Because, you know, as women are starting to hear these, are recognising I'm not alone. You know, this is something that each of us have moved through in our evolutionary path, and we're going to start moving towards what are we up against now as leaders in this part of our evolution. So let's just name some of those core wounds.
I'm a survivor of domestic abuse.
Domestic abuse.
I'm not good enough.
Not good enough.
You ought to be quiet.
Yeah.
You really don't have much to share. You're really not that valuable.
And overcoming the idea that women and girls are stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. That what we're teaching isn't important.
Yeah.
Don't be too big. Don't get too big for your britches. You know, don't shine your light too brightly.
Don't be a granola and a Greenpeace. Who's going to pay you? The earth? Who's going to pay you? The trees?
Get a real job, sort of thing.
Get a real job.
Yeah. Get a real job. Yeah.
Yeah. Stop living in that woo-woo land.
What is environmental education anyway?
Yeah.
And how are you going to make money at that?
Who do you think you are that you can do that? You know, who do you think you are that you can be that?
Yeah.
You're too big, you're too small, you're too fat, you know, your hair's not the right colour, you don't have the skills.
Yeah, and the outer judgment then turns to become the inner judgment.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we become our worst critic. That's why I'm working so much with the children, because I'm going to be the international spokesperson for Peace Pals. And that what I want to teach is that we all have a peace pal inside. And that peace pal is the voice of genuineness and gentleness. And how do we learn how to hear that voice over the inner critic voice and all the voices of all the people who came before who tried to make us believe that we had to be a certain way in order to fit into this world, and come back to your own original, innocent, true self that doesn't need anything to prove your worthiness. That's the excitement that I have, and working with Kokori app also. These are the two main things that I'm working with, is I believe it's going to be absolutely revolutionary in our education system. This is an app that it teaches social emotional learning and teaches experiential education. And I'm working as their PR public relations organizer. So that's something that I think all of us can work together on and be in collaboration with Peace Pals and Kokori app. And anybody who wants to reach out to me, Karen Palmer at wetheworld.org. Everyone is welcome to join our partnership and to be a part of We the World. What we do at We the World is we have the three I's that become a we. So we inform, we inspire, and we involve. And we work together to go from that me society to a we society. So it's all about we, you know, it's all about we. That's the new conversation. That's the new narrative.
Yeah,
Love
and,
it.
Each of the women here and the women who were on the screen before, and many of the stakeholders of we are holding specific solutions. You know, Karen spoke a very powerful one in this moment. Everyone here, and I really just want to take a moment just to feel what the layer that we started building on some of the beliefs that not only we have carried as women are carrying in the world right now. You know, and to recognize that there is an invitation for the upliftment and the evolution, which we have all continued, and it's a work in progress still, isn't it, after many years? You know, I've been on this personal evolutionary path for over 20 years and continuing to learn every single day. What is it that we now as women are really feeling the edges around in our leadership? You know, as I look at each of you women on the screen and the women who have been in this conversation, all established, all doing great things in the world, have really invested in their own personal, spiritual and emotional evolution, who are actually active in the implementation of contribution. But we're now leaning into something new. So let's just start to feel, what are our edges right now? And I just want to name them, because we're going to go somewhere else in a minute. But let's just say what are they. So one of the things, I'll start us off. So one of the things that I continue to focus on in my leadership is a place where I can take over responsibility. So, you know, and what comes with that is another invitation to let go even more, but also to make sure that I have the support foundations around me so I can, you know, in terms of having the resources, the places where I can feel that real holding, because I know what wants to emerge, because it's two questions here. What is it that we're up against in our leadership, and what is it that wants to now emerge through us? You know? And in that willingness now to actually be able to let go and surrender even more, because I'm ready for a bigger game, and calling in that level of support, you know, and allowing the over responsibility. I know what's being called forth in my leadership right now is a place of stepping into even more power from within, more of my feminine power, more of my visibility, more of my opportunity to influence, more of the space to embody everything that I have been creating up until this now moment. And so I'm curious what it is for each of you. And I'm sharing these places and spaces. And do we want to keep it live on Facebook still? Because I feel this is a powerful conversation, but this is about confidentiality and safety as well. It feels important because I'm leaning in here, because I'm speaking to all of the feminine leaders out there. So what are some of the others? Because what's happening in me is happening in each of you, and what's happening in each of you is happening in each of the women. So who else would like to share? What are you sort of up against in your leadership, and what is really wanting to emerge now?
I'd like to what I'm noticing, I work in many groups, evolutionistas, you know, with Aurora, with the lovely Aurora and Grace and Sheila Cash, and also other groups, political groups, international meditation groups, etc. What I'm noticing is the importance of picking up what's underneath and having the courage to speak to it. Because every group I'm in, what I'm trying to add to in that group is the collective wisdom of the group. And so sometimes that does take courage to say that, to say what needs to be said, trusting what my heart is beating inside, prompting me to say. So that's my edge, but it's a very exciting edge, and it takes a lot of really keen listening in multiple settings with many different voices to then step forward and say what needs to be said.
And as you're each speaking, thank you so much, Pleasance. I'm going to start naming again some of these feminine intelligent qualities that we've been refining so they can just be heard again and claimed. So that place of deep listening and actually really sensing what's beneath the words and what's beneath the intention, really getting a wider view. And that information becomes very potent in our visioning, doesn't it? When we can take that in and take it into our creative process. You know, in the past as leaders, we took all the facts in, which of course is still important, you know, the numbers and, you know, the facts of what's going on. But now we've got this other layer of intelligence that when we can go into deep listening, it's happening on this conversation right here, right now, that we can start to actually pull out the strands of something bigger that's sitting in the space. Beautiful. Who else?
I think that
Janice, I'll call Janice out because she tried to jump out. Sorry, Karen. Well, she tried to jump out before. We're all too fast. Go for it, Janice.
Thanks so much, Aurora. I think the big thing for me at the moment is actually acknowledging that I am a role model within my community and within, you know, my level of influence, I guess. And for a long time, I have led from behind as far as going, okay, I'll just put everything out there, but not taking ownership and not stepping into the role fully. So for me at the moment, it's actually going, everything that you do is being watched by your community, and you're actually going through a lot of things first. And so you're leading the way by doing the things that you're doing, and you're showing them and you're empowering them on a daily basis with everything that you're doing. So that's been a huge thing for me just recently, going, okay, you've been given this gift. You've been given this gift to work with. Now it's time to step into it. You need to honor who you are and the gift that you've been given, and you need to take it seriously and not just be thinking, oh yeah, I'm just doing this. Yeah, women are, you know, learning these things from me or whatever. It's like, you know what, you have a role here, and that's what has been, yeah, a huge thing for me.
Amazing. So it sounds like you're really claiming another level of your leadership and really claiming your gifts and really being a model. I mean, that's one of the things in our feminine leadership, really modeling what we're integrating and what we're sharing. And I'm curious, Janice, just sitting in good company here with other feminine leaders, how does that aspect of you get supported? I mean, how does that feel for you?
It feels amazing to know that you're actually not alone. There are many of us women who are out there that are, you know, we think we're on this, you know, individual journey, but we've all been through similar things in our lives that, I mean, Aurora, you mentioned about the, you know, working in a male-dominated, you know, business environment. I had exactly the same thing where I was constantly questioning, is this the way that we have to do it? Do we have to do it like this? Because this is really testing my values. I don't want to do it this way. And so each time those things happened in my life, I had to be courageous to say, no, this isn't right for me and it's not right for many people. And then stepping up and doing it differently and showing that you can be successful by bringing in compassion, kindness, integrity, ethical behaviors. So it's been an amazing journey, and I feel really supported and actually really inspired by hearing all the other women's stories today.
Beautiful. I can tell from the smile on your face. It's gorgeous. Thank you for sharing your voice.
Thank you.
And your heart. Karen, you wanted to share.
Yeah, I think the challenge for me is connecting the dots. And I feel that I have so many incredible women and men and families and organizations that I support and that I have been, you know, helping amplify their message. And I feel that, you know, what I have as a gift is I'm a divine connector, and I trust my inner wisdom. I lead with my inner wisdom, and I trust when I'm speaking. I suffered for so many years in silence, terrified, absolutely terrified to speak. And now being vulnerable and sharing that openly with people has really, really been one of my inner strengths that I thought was my biggest weakness. I never wanted people to see my vulnerabilities because I thought I need to show, that I'm never going to be abused again. I'm never going to let another person disrespect me or mistreat me. And I created this character that was just kind of putting that wall up. And then I realized that just wasn't working for me. And then I just let the wall down and allowed the divine connector in me, allowed my inner wisdom to come through, and stopped listening to what other people were telling me was how I should be acting if I wanted to be successful. I feel like there's so many people, there's so many voices, there's so much noise out in the world going this direction, that direction, this direction, that direction. But if you just center in and you only listen to the inner wisdom, the other voices become so silent, and nobody can silence you again, because you are speaking from that space of genuineness and gentleness, and a place where I think everybody can hear. I think everyone can hear it. And I think that's the gift, is the divine connection, and like beautiful Barbara Marx Hubbard said, joining genius. When we join genius, we really, I want that for every child. I want every child to join genius and to never compete with each other, but to see the benefit of bringing all our gifts together.
Amazing, and so many qualities were dropping in there, in that sense of being vulnerable. One of the biggest pandemics, I believe, on the planet is that a lot of humanity has forgotten how to feel, or is not prepared to feel. And then when you take it to the opposite side of the spectrum, where we're actually enabling ourselves to be ourselves through the heart and through the expression of whatever is showing up for us in this moment, and to be seen in that, the power that comes from that is incredible as leaders. Because at the end of the day, we're not taskmasters as leaders, we're actually inspiring. And so when we're actually in our full expression and our own inspiration, which is our naturalness, then those who believe what we believe will naturally be inspired and will move towards. I'm starting to feel into the essence of magnetism and being magnetic as a feminine leader. That old way of having to push, make everything happen. It's exhausting. And, I know for myself, when I need to be in that masculine quality of making things happen, I can go there, and it's kind of my go-to in crisis. And yet, the new learning and the practice is about, how do I continue to surrender and just allow the next thing to show up. Janice and I lived in the same town for many, many years, and didn't really have an opportunity to deeply connect. And just through a few synchronicities just in the last couple of weeks, this new connection, because it feels new, even though it's old, and newness is already opening up there. There's a new allowing starting to happen, So the other thing you spoke into was being genuine. I would probably call that as being authentic. Our authenticity as feminine leaders, and how important that is, in the integrity. Is there anybody else who'd like to share? Go for it, Grace.
I would love to share. I just want to thank Karen for the things that you brought up. And I loved that. I'm definitely going to reach out to you at We the World. I love the inform, inspire, and involve. And the things that you were talking about in even supporting the children to come together, in collaboration and connection. And my nonprofit's called Grace's Place Foundation, and it's serving and supporting women and children of abuse to have hope and promise for their future. And it's everything that we're talking about. And the word that popped into my heart as you were speaking, and then as Aurora was speaking, was encouragement. We're all talking about courage. And so, and Aurora mentioned, the push, and this is encourage. We're inviting. We're pulling them into themselves and to join their own genius with, you know, with God, with source, with spirit, and in a collaboration of oneness, and feeling into their own magnificence. And so the word encouragement just popped in as just such a beautiful, important quality for the divine feminine energy aspect of leadership. Yeah.
Completely. I love it so much. Thank you, Grace.
Mm-hmm.
I would just add, encouragement comes from the heart, because it's our hearts that give us courage. So that's a beautiful connection that you've just made there. Thank you, Janet Grace.
I was feeling Liz's voice in this space. But would you like to share before we just go into the next little piece?
Me? Are you calling me? Yes. You know, I would just like to just affirm and what's already been said to some extent, but where I am, the edge that I am pushing right now, not pushing though, is the surrender piece. And as you said, the not doing it in the old masculine way, because that is the way I was trained. It is the way I've always done it. And it worked pretty well. And so it's hard to let go of it. But it has been so clear. The message just keeps coming to me. Let go, surrender, let us do this with you. And so whatever is being created from here on out, I am sitting back, I am listening, I am waiting for that intuitive hit. And if it means I have to take a pause, which is what has been strongly coming through right now, which again, I was on a trajectory, and the strong message that's come through is pause, wait for your next instruction. And so I am actually taking a pause before launching those 7 pillars of women's empowerment. I was ready to go, and the message was very clear. Wait, there's something else I need to know. There's some piece of the divine feminine that needs to be revealed still. And so that's the challenge for me, is to say, okay, I'll sit back and wait and listen. So
the whole place of divine timing really going through, or however you would like to name it, feminine timing, her timing, the
right.
she timing, you know, and you know, having the patience to actually trust. And it comes back to the trust again, trusting that you need to follow that deeper voice.
Yes.
Feels really, really important. And I just really want to just mention one other thing here before we go into the next piece, and that is, you know, the opportunity. I don't know how to word this, but it's kind of like to also give ourselves a break. Just give ourselves a break. You know, we can be so hard on ourselves as women. And what I mean by that, you know, we are remembering and relearning here into these places of surrender. My sense of women 2,000 odd years ago, who knew? These were just natural qualities. They weren't something they needed to practice. You know, and somehow in the willingness to stop and surrender and tapping into that remembering, the naturalness of owning a lot of the qualities that we're speaking to starts to become available to us. And I'm just really feeling the perhaps centuries of how a lot of the qualities that we're leaning into were completely disbanded, were completely discarded. And so, you know, in our willingness to start to honour those places in ourselves, in some ways feels like a sense of being a pioneer. And that's why it sometimes feels hard. Because we're pioneering this new way, which is an old way, which is a new way. You know, and we're reintegrating it into a society that just doesn't kind of fit. You know, into systems that just don't fit. In organisations where it doesn't fit, in structures where it doesn't fit. So I'm just going to move to this next section, and we're going to wrap up in about 10 minutes or so, being a smaller group. And just really starting to tune into, I know that some of our deeper why for many of us is to create a world, and this is part of WE's mission. One of the reasons I felt so aligned in saying yes to coming and sharing sacred conversations every month, because my purpose with my organisation is awakening the feminine principle for a world that works for all, for us to go there, the systems are breaking down, and they have to. And new solutions are starting to bubble up. But even in knowing that, the world looks like it's in complete turmoil and chaos in many ways, and it is. And yet many of us know that current reality isn't future vision. Right? What is it that we are starting to, in our feminine leadership vision, into? And what are we seeing and sensing? Where are we going? What are the pieces that are known? What do we know already? Knowing again that we only kind of know the next step. And I feel like we're kind of still at the end of that in-between worlds of what was, how we've always done things and how we've operated, and in pre-COVID and all those things, and we haven't quite got to where we're going yet. We're sort of in between, but we're coming along the way. And yet we're evolving at a rapid rate, even though we don't really know. Do you feel the sense of saying, what do we know? What do we know as we're moving in towards the future in terms of our vision? Just little insights. What is it that you know about the future?
Equality is key.
Beautiful. What else?
Kindness is the path, accompanied by female strength. United.
Learning to communicate consciously and compassionately will change the way that our world has functioned.
Yes.
And freedom, true freedom, sovereignty of our souls, each and every being on the planet. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Restoring the sacred in everything.
Yes. Knowing that the new solutions can only be created from love and not fear.
Honoring our deep intuitive wisdom.
Remembering that we're not separate. We're all one.
Honoring the divine feminine, honoring the divine masculine. And
A rebalancing.
Yeah, and opening to a new way of dancing in wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing that in animals in nature also.
Yeah. Beautiful. Let's take another deep breath in together, beautiful women. And I'm just going to ask us to close our eyes. And just allowing everything that has been shared, that has been activated, that is now bubbling up within you. Knowing that in just this conversation and your willingness to show up as yourself, and the willingness to show up in your leadership, in your truth, that this is already so. And just calling in now an action, perhaps a new action that is going to be inspired that you will take just from this conversation. It may be something for yourself. It may be something for your contribution in your work. Just receiving now one action that you will be boldly moving forward with. It's been created through and cultivated through these words. So just giving a little bit of silence to feel into that. I'm inviting those who are watching or who we're listening in to do the same. As we take our final unified breath, at least for this call and this particular configuration of incredible, powerful, potent, amazing women. And a long breath out. And just quickly naming the actions as we move towards the close of this beautiful call. What is it that you're going to do now as a consequence? A beautiful divine consequence.
Mm.
I'm about to step into a space where there's a bit of chaos. It's actually not my role, but I'm going to step in and just kind of coordinate a few things to make something happen. Going to take action.
I'm going to be interviewing some new team leaders for Grace's Place this week.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Go well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm actually, I feel after that quiet time that I'm now ready to do the next step, which is, making contact with the people that are going to help me to get the program to the next level. So just that, I feel like I've been waiting for that moment to go. Now I'm ready.
I'm also happy to support you, Janice, in any
Thank
way.
you. I'm going to take you up on that.
And I'm going to dive into a bit of research on the divine feminine. So go deeper into that and what she means for our leadership and what part I'm meant to play in bringing that forth.
Beautiful. Thank you, Elizabeth. That's amazing. Karen.
I have felt for the longest time since Barbara Marx Hubbard left her physical body that she has been embodying me and getting me stronger and stronger, my voice stronger, bringing me to the people that she has blessed me to be with, which I feel this circle is I just have to acknowledge her spirit right now, her guide, her love, her essence, because I feel her so strongly guiding me, and I'm getting so much more clear in how to communicate from my non-physical guides and teachers. I'm learning how to weave this conversation so that people who are in lower frequencies who are not able to actually hear what I'm saying are able to hear now, because there's this beautiful awakening on a level that I can't even describe or even put into words, but I just want to acknowledge that her spirit is so alive in this circle right now, and that I feel her, she has been guiding me and helping me to know how important the work that I'm doing with the children is, and how I'm going to be able to take her work, and what I do is simplify big concepts, and to take what she has done with the adults to the children. So this to me has been such a confirmation. And she has said to me so many times, don't let your human self complicate this, because you humans love confirmation, but you also like to complicate when you get a gift. So accept the gift, and I just want to acknowledge that you're all such a gift. And Janice, please reach out to me. I would love to help support your vision. All of you, please reach out to me. I really do love amplifying the beauty and the essence of our light in the world. So that's what I feel, I know she has me being placed in. And when I met Aurora and she shared with me, that she was with Sheila Cash, it was just like, holy cannoli. I kept saying, okay, Barbara, this is just amazing. This is just so wonderful. So it's just, you know what? I believe God is too wonderful for names. Too wonderful is what I call God, and what I call source, and what I call spirit. No name for it. It's just too wonderful, because all names have gotten too much baggage. So I believe God, our true self, is too wonderful for words.
Yes.
I love it. And I just wanted to start to wrap up our call now. And thank you for bringing Barbara Marx Hubbard into the call. Janice and Marie, I'm not sure if you're aware of Barbara Marx Hubbard and our listeners who are coming in, but Barbara Marx Hubbard was an incredible futurist and an incredible woman who Janet Grace, Pleasance and I and our other partner Sheila Cash, we have another organisation called the Evolutionistas, where we support change makers to rise into delivering their project and working through their leadership to be able to enable the projects that they have on the planet. And we all met through Barbara, and Barbara Marx Hubbard was our mentor. And I want to close from this perspective and just let you know how you can stay connected. So I will show that in a moment. But when Barbara Marx Hubbard passed away, about 8 weeks to us all, Grace and Pleasance and myself, 36 of us were travelling with her as evolutionary leaders for some weeks. She passed 8 weeks into our 12-week journey with her. And some months later, I had the good fortune of going to America and went to sit outside of her home where she lived. And as I sat in the chair outside of her house, I closed my eyes and I just wanted to tune into her and thank her from this quiet, still place. And she showed up as a vision. She showed up immediately as I closed my eyes, and I saw her weeping. And if you knew Barbara quite well, she was this woman of great wisdom, and she would speak and then she'd giggle, 89 and a half, and, she'd be like a 30-year-old or a 15-year-old just giggling, after her wisdom. So she was weeping. And she showed me a lightning strike, and on one side of the lightning strike was dark clouds and rain and havoc. And on the right side, it was all light. And she showed me a circle of people sitting together with a spiral in the middle. And she often talked about the evolutionary spiral, the fact that we're all consciously now evolving the next spiral of our evolution. And we have an opportunity to consciously choose how we're going to evolve versus allow it to happen. And what that showed me, she said to me, be aware, but what I heard was be aware, the great divide is coming. And this was November of 2018 before we moved into COVID. The great divide is coming. And what she showed me was the importance of coming together in resonant groups, what we're doing here today. And so at that point, it gave me a greater commitment to continue the gatherings, which now has actually evolved as sacred conversations, and to bring these sacred conversations to every man, woman and child across the globe. Because it is in these conversations where we will get the clarity. It is in these conversations where we will get the deep connections. It is in these conversations where we do get an opportunity to join genius, where we get to share our gifts, to be witness so we can grow and to evolve. And so to stay connected, I'm just going to quickly share my screen. We have International Women's Month. Karen Palmer will be interviewing some incredible women in the WE network over the next month, which has been kicked off today. I'll be hosting a monthly Sacred Conversations through the WE network, so look out for that. I also run a lot of feminine leadership, personal coaching and group coaching. So if you want to find me, you can find me on Global She Speaks. And I'm also extending to the women of our community a 6-week journey where we can come together in sacred space, in good company, to really build on our leadership. I have a program which I'm about to launch in a few weeks' time called In Good Company. So if you need to reach out to us, please do. If you can't find where to reach out, you can just write to the email that you RSVP, sacredconversations@wetheworld.org. So as we go to our close now and we start to cultivate the threads, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because each of you women are representing all the women across the globe. It's really interesting. I know that each of us in our brilliance and also in the empowerment and the growth that we're all going through, and the incredible projects that we're contributing, that each of us are also going through our own personal experiences. My beautiful mama, for example, and I want to honour her today, has been on a very difficult health journey for the last 3 years. In fact, she's just arrived in my home yesterday, out of hospital for 11 weeks. And I just really want to send to each of the women blessings for what you're holding, what you're holding, what you're curating, even in this. And so I thank you each. Have a beautiful rest of day. For those in the US, happy International Women's Day. I hope you're doing something to celebrate yourself. For those in Australia, thank you, Janice and I are holding that in New Zealand. We're sort of at the extension at the other end. Go well, loving you deeply, and we'll see you super soon. Thank you so much. Stay connected, beautiful women. I'm just going to switch this off.